County. My name's Josh Whitaker. I'm your host today. I am an attorney with the law firm of McCullers, Whitaker, and Hamer. I always like to start out with a reminder. I am an attorney licensed to practice only in North Carolina. The attorneys appearing on our podcast today are only licensed to practice in North Carolina. So, a podcast about North Carolina law. With me today, to my right, I've got Mr. Damian McCullers, who is a partner with the law firm of McCullers, Whitaker, and Hamer.
Hello.
And to his right, I've got Mr. Joe Hamer, also a partner with the law firm of McCullers, Whitaker, and Hamer.
Hello.
All McCullers, Whitaker, and Hamer today across the board. Nothing wrong with that. Today we're here to talk to you about something that I talk about a lot. I go to a lot of realtors' office, real estate agent office, banks, and I talk about wire fraud in the context of a real estate transaction, a real estate closing, a house purchase, refinance, things like that. Our law firm does a lot of real estate transactions for folks, and wire fraud is something that we're seeing an alarming rising trend in attempted wire fraud. And we're going to talk a little bit about that so that you can be on guard. As we imagine you'd be a prospective home buyer or a seller, somebody who's going to receive proceeds from a closing. You're going to be dealing with a closing attorney. Hopefully it's the law firm of McCullers, Whitaker, and Hamer. But even if it isn't, there's things that you need to be aware of, need to keep an eye open for. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. The first situation I want to talk about is for our buyers. So in a real estate transaction, our law firm is typically going to be representing the buyer of the home, the purchaser. And we want to make sure their funds are safe. And so as a buyer, the funds we're talking about are the money that your cash to close, what you need to bring to closing. Some people will call it your down payment, whatever you're going to call it, the money that you need to bring to the attorney's office for closing. And Joe, I know you've seen this a time or two, so I'll flip it over to you to talk a little bit about how this comes up for buyers, where it all kind of goes wrong in a situation like this.
So, like Josh said, there's been an alarming uptick in the last few years of wire fraud attempts. I'd say we see 2 attempts a month now, maybe.
Yeah, and I would clarify that these are certainly attempts, and they're easy to detect if you're doing everything that you need to do as a law firm and as a client, but we still do see people try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we get the attempts. We don't fall for them, but they come through. We see them, and it happens frequently. So on the buyer side, like Josh said, you're worried about what you're sending us to closing your funds. And we a lot of the times, and pretty much all of the time, you're generally going to be bringing us more money than we can accept a personal check for. So of course, we always say we prefer a cashier's check or a wire, and generally we prefer a wire just because it's quicker. The funds are going to be readily available, and we can confirm that they're actually sitting in our account.
Let me interrupt you, Joe, and this isn't really what this podcast is about, but why closing attorneys, settlement agents want wires is because there are statutes in North Carolina. There's a Settlement Procedures Act statute that says we need those funds in our account ready and available so that your transaction, when you come to closing on Tuesday, your closing actually finishes up, closes, gets recorded, and disperses on Tuesday.
Exactly.
If you write us a personal check and we accepted it, well, that could take days to clear.
You could stop pay the check.
You could stop pay the check.
Anytime.
A certified check is a bank check. That's still good too, but it's not as readily available as a wire. And so that's why our industry has kind of transferred over to requiring wires. We usually will require a wire for anything over $2,000, although we will certainly make exceptions when needed. But that is why everybody's become very insistent on a wire, because everybody wants everything to happen the same day, and for that to happen, we need those funds. So that's kind of why we get to that point.
And it's for good reason, because it protects everyone, and it makes sure that everything runs smoothly. So in order for us to have you send us a wire, we have to provide you with our wiring instructions. And so for buyers, a lot of the fraud attempts that we see, they're kind of come in multiple forms, and we've pretty much seen every form of it. You'll see some bad agent, someone who is coming into the transaction. They've either hacked your email, they've hacked your realtor's email, and they know that you're buying a house. They know when your closing date is. They know details just from monitoring your email, because that's what they'll do. They'll sit and they'll monitor and they'll learn about the transaction from the background. And then at some point, close to the closing date, they're going to jump in and they're going to impersonate someone. They're either going to impersonate your lender, they're going to impersonate your realtor. We've seen both of those things happen. Or at times they'll try to impersonate your attorney.
Right.
And what they'll generally do is there's a couple ways it can happen. The way that we see most commonly is that they'll just create an email account that's very similar to the email of someone you've been dealing with.
They'll spoof.
They'll spoof you essentially. So you'll see your realtor, but it'll be your realtor. It could be their exact email with one letter transposed or one number added, just so that if you glance at it, they're going to copy their signature. They're going to copy everything. So if you just look at it and you don't look at that email, you're going to see it, and it may be very confusing.
So that's the big point. There is going to be a compromised email. So for instance, we're a .lawyer domain name. We email using Citrix share file. So anytime we deliver you a sensitive email or deliver your agent a sensitive email, it's going to come over as a secure share file attachment that has to be downloaded from another site. But that's it. You know, you have these people doing business with Yahoo email accounts or
Gmail
AOL,
accounts.
and not that that's necessarily bad, but those have all been known. You know, Yahoo. I think if you have a Yahoo account, you've been hacked.
You've
at some
been hacked.
point.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's easy. It's easy to create. You can create those accounts instantly, and that's what they do.
Yeah. So it's very easy to have a compromised email. You know, when you've got an attorney, a lender, assistants for both. You got a husband and a wife, buyer, real estate agent assistant. You usually have 6 or 7 people involved, and it's not uncommon for at least one of those emails to be compromised. And these bad actors just watch this unfold because they're already in there, and they're not going to insert themselves into the transaction until, like Joe said, they've learned about it.
Exactly. And so they'll come in at the end. And so what you'll see is you'll have someone that'll spoof one of these people, and they're going to send you an email. They're going to say, hey, you got to send a wire for your funds to close, which you know because you've gotten a letter most likely from the attorney. So that part's legitimate. But then they're going to give you incorrect wiring instructions. And, a lot of times it's very easy to spot if you're looking because it's going to be a completely different name than the law firm that you're dealing with. Right. But they'll explain it away and say, you need to send it to this account because this is the account that we use. You know, there's all kinds of ways that they're going to try.
And it always has to be done right away.
Exactly. It's always because they know the longer that you wait and the longer that you scrutinize, the more that you run the risk of someone else intervening, letting you know what's going on, or the plan falling apart. So there's always a sense of urgency, and we usually see that where they say you got to send this wire today, or you're not going to close, and you want to close. So a lot of times that freaks you out. Exactly. But again, the important things to remember is we're always going to send you instructions directly. They're going to come from us. If your realtor sends them to you, if your lender sends them to you, they could be our wiring instructions, but it is important that you're always following up with us and you always want to get that directly from us.
There are several easy things that really defeat any of these scams. And the first one is knowing who we are. So we're going to send you an engagement letter. Sometimes it goes to your real estate agent if we don't have your direct email. But the law firm is going to send you, our law firm is going to send you an engagement letter. That tells you, one, to be careful about wire fraud. It gives you our contact information, lets you know who we are. And the number one way we can beat this attempted wire fraud is if you get something from us that causes you alarm, fits this criteria, just call us. Our attorneys may not, we may be meeting with people right when you call, but we'll call you right back if a staff person can't help you. But don't do anything until you talk to us. And you'll have our number. The bad actor is going that wants to look like us or look like your real estate agent. They're going to change all the information. So if you've got the bad email and you call that number, you're going to get them. So you need to go back to our engagement letter,
Sure.
Go to the web, Google us, get our actual number, call us, and then everything's fine.
I think it's safe to assume, always just be on your toes and assume you're getting scammed until you can absolutely confirm that you're not.
Yeah.
Because it's real and it's happened, and we haven't seen, but we have seen from folks in the industry that we deal with, people have been gotten by this.
North Carolina, I know of several they were successful. The bad guys got into the picture, things weren't confirmed, and they got away with money, and you ain't getting it back.
You're not getting it back.
And that was my question. Like, if that bad actor succeeds, what's the likelihood of that person getting their money?
It's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially,
It's
these
just
aren't
gone.
people that you're gonna. I mean, I'm sure that thorough investigation from people who are super qualified and have all kinds of resources and IT skills may be able to track it. But by that point, you got to think, where's it going to? A lot of times these folks are overseas, and it's just not.
I'll add too. There's not really a traditional insurance that would cover this loss.
Especially for buyers. Yeah,
Right,
especially
right.
for buyers.
Right. So it's not a title issue. So even though you got title insurance, that's not really something title insurance is going to jump to cover. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover it. It's not malpractice necessarily. So a lawyer's malpractice insurance isn't going to necessarily cover it. So you've got a true loss. And now we carry a policy that is designed to cover this type of thing, but it is a very new product. that is on the market as a result of this. But traditionally,
And that's not necessarily going to cover your negligence either.
right? It's not going to compensate you for everybody not doing exactly what they're supposed to do. But it's an easy crime for these fraudsters. Again, they're not really going to get caught very easily. It doesn't take a lot of time or energy. They throw this out there, and if they're successful, that's great. And if they don't, they just move on to the next one.
Yeah.
But so when you're sending money to us, we're representing you. Call us. We're going to take the time to talk to you, make sure everything's fine. And worst case scenario, just get a certified check.
Exactly.
Explain to us what happened. We're going to tell you, our staff will probably tell you over $2,000, we're not going to take a certified check. We waive that. If there's any kind of impropriety, you got any kind of weird feelings, you haven't been able to confirm, err on the side of caution, we're going to work with you. We're not going to tell you can't close on your house. But again, be reasonable about it and just be on the lookout.
I think that's it. Good summary. Call us, be on the lookout, assume the worst, and be careful.
And just as your attorney's office and your realtor will never tell you have to send money. You got to do it right away.
Exactly.
Right away. Take off work. Go to the bank. You got to do it now. We'll never harass you.
We prefer to have money as early as we can because it helps out. But I mean, there's a lot of times we're getting wires same day as closing, so it's never going to be that urgent of an issue unless you hear it from our office directly in the office that it's that urgent of an issue.
This attempted wire fraud is really changing how we deal with sellers. So sellers we don't represent. In North Carolina, we represent the buyer. We owe some minor duties to the seller because we have personal information as a result of the transaction. So we owe the seller some duty, but we don't represent our seller. And so if you sold a house and you're making money, we're gonna have your proceeds. And a lot of times we don't even meet sellers anymore because of TRID regulations. A lot of times sellers will come in ahead of time, sign everything they need to sign, or sign it at their attorney's office because they're out of state, they've already moved. We don't get a lot of interaction with sellers. And so wire fraudsters know this, and they try to interpose themselves when we're trying to get information about, hey, where do you want your proceeds to go? And so we have some protocols in effect to make sure this scam doesn't happen. But it's changing how settlement agents get money to sellers. I know our instructions reserve the right not to send you a wire.
And we've done it. If we get a bad feeling and people get upset, but again, we've seen it so much. There's certain signs where it's not worth it.
But it's not worth it.
Exactly.
I would point to there's no, and this blows people's brains, but when we do a transaction and we do a closing for our buyer, we have to protect the seller's money, but we're under no legal obligation to wire that money to a seller.
Sure.
We don't have to overnight proceeds to a seller. We just have a check, and that seller can come pick it up. And we don't like to put that out there and make you come pick up a check. But if we don't have good wiring instructions for you, if our seller hasn't followed our instructions to make us feel comfortable, because that happens a lot where sellers just don't want to do the things that we require of them to make us feel safe, then we're just not going to send it. We're going to hold it, send it, have a check ready for you to pick up, for your real estate agent to pick up. But that does make a lot of people mad, but we're just trying to protect your funds.
One thing, again, going back to what we're doing to protect sellers, we're going to take every step we can to make sure if we are wiring your money to you that it's correct. So we've got a form that you're gonna get when you get our letter, our informational letter about closing. It's gonna have all the information we need, and it's gonna require you to sign that in front of a notary. So you're gonna have to do that, and it's got some disclaimers. And just like you said, it says we reserve the right to refuse to send you this wire. We may make you come get a check. Again, know that we may call you again. I mean, we're going to do everything we can. So we may get your notarized instructions. You may have a voided check. We may have everything we need, and we may still give you a call. And generally, we are going to give you a call because we want to make absolutely certain that we're dealing with you. And there's and another thing we're never going to do is if you're selling a house and you come to us and you say, hey, I want this money sent to a different account or a business or anything like that. Just know straight out that's the fraud attempt that we generally see is we've had sellers leave a closing, and within 15 minutes of them leaving a closing, they've been hacked. Someone knows that they've closed, and we get an email very similar to theirs saying, hey, I've just left your closing. I want this fund sent to my subsidiary company. Here's our instructions. And of course, we know it's a scam, but it happens. So we're going to be very, very careful with your money.
So then just be careful. Keep your eyes open. Know that this is a thing that happens. We're here to help you. Call us if we can help you.
Bear with us if we harass you about your wiring instructions,
right.
because it's where everyone's good.
Otherwise, again, hope it's been helpful information. Call us 772-7000. It's area code 919-772-7000 if we can be of any help to you. We'll see you next time.
So long.